Rob's my closest friend. He's a wonderful, wonderful person and a great director.
Billy, I love you. And I'm saving my material for tomorrow.
Hollywood icon
Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner.
Director Rob Reiner and his wife Michele are
Rob Reiner's son is now in custody after the murders of the actor and director and his wife Michele.
When Billy Crystal's phone rang that night, he thought it was a bad joke, some kind of twisted rumor spreading through Hollywood's whisper network. But within minutes, the laughter stopped. What he heard next would shatter him and the entire entertainment world forever.
Today I'm here to announce that our office will be filing charges against Nick Reiner, who is accused of killing his parents, actor-director Rob Reiner, and photographer-producer Michele Singer Reiner.
Rob Reiner, the man who gave us When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, and A Few Good Men, was gone. Not from illness, not from age, but from something darker, something unthinkable. He and his wife Michele had been found inside their Brentwood home, victims of a brutal act that police would later call one of the most shocking crimes in Los Angeles history.
New video right here showing police closing in on Nick Reiner just hours after his parents, Michele and Rob Reiner, were found dead in their home. This new video showing his movements inside a convenience store moments before he was arrested.
As news broke, Billy Crystal, Rob's best friend for over 50 years, rushed to the scene. The same man who'd shared stages, stories, and countless laughs with Rob was now facing a nightmare no punchline could fix. Eyewitnesses say his face turned pale as sirens wailed, his voice breaking as he whispered, "Tell me this isn't true." In a city built on make-believe, this was heartbreak that couldn't be scripted.
I love Billy Crystal. I'm so happy to be here, Billy. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir William Crystal.
And while headlines screamed about Hollywood tragedy and family betrayal, one question echoed louder than any headline could print. What really happened that night, and what did Billy Crystal see that he's never spoken about publicly until now? Because to understand this tragedy, we need to go back to the love, the fame, the tension, and the final night that changed everything. This story is about understanding, not accusation, and every detail shared here is meant to bring context, not conclusion.
This is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. Those need to be thoroughly but very carefully dealt with and examined.
For decades, the Reiners were Hollywood's picture of balance, talent, intelligence, and integrity wrapped into one family. Rob Reiner wasn't just a celebrated filmmaker, he was the son of comedy legend Carl Reiner, a man who shaped American laughter. His wife, Michele Singer Reiner, was known for her warmth and quiet strength, the steady presence behind his creative storm. To their friends, they seemed untouchable. A rare example of fame without scandal, wealth without arrogance, success without losing their soul. But behind the smiles, something was quietly fracturing. Their youngest son, Nick, had been battling addiction since his teens. He was bright, witty, and sensitive, yet lost in a cycle of recovery and relapse that stretched for years. The family stood by him, investing time, emotion, and endless hope into his healing.
He's my son. I love him. It doesn't matter. He's more important than anything that could happen to me.
Rob even turned that pain into art, directing Being Charlie, a story about a young man struggling with substance abuse, a film inspired by his son's real battle. To outsiders, it looked like therapy through storytelling. To those closer to them, it was a cry for help. The tension between father and son wasn't built overnight. It brewed in quiet moments, in failed promises, in the heavy silence of disappointment. Still, no one imagined how deep the fracture truly ran. The Reiners were masters at masking pain with professionalism, but every perfect family photo hides a shadow, and theirs was growing darker by the day. In 2015, Rob Reiner released a film that most of Hollywood saw as another moving drama. But for those who knew the Reiner family, Being Charlie wasn't just cinema, it was a mirror.
He's pretty quiet. He's quieter, but he listens. He's a great dad, and I just mean that he's best explaining himself when he's in his element, making a movie, showing how much he cares through that.
The story followed a teenage boy trapped in addiction, fighting both his demons and his father's expectations. What few realized then was that Rob's own son, Nick, had co-written the script. It wasn't fiction, it was confession. Every frame of Being Charlie pulsed with real pain, the shouting, the shame, the desperate love between a father trying to save his child and a son who no longer believed he could be saved. When critics praised the movie's raw authenticity, they had no idea they were applauding a family's private heartbreak dressed up as art. Rob once told an interviewer, "You write what you know." For him, that was both therapy and torment. Behind the applause, Rob and Michele were fighting a war most parents can't imagine. Rehab visits, sleepless nights, the constant fear of another relapse. Nick was in and out of treatment centers, sometimes sober, sometimes vanishing for weeks. Friends recalled how Rob aged visibly during those years, how the sparkle in his eyes dimmed as hope slowly eroded into exhaustion.
As of 2016, Nick had gone to rehab 18 times, and that means that in 7 years, he went to rehab 18 times.
Being Charlie was supposed to be a release, maybe even redemption, but it also reopened wounds that never healed. Nick reportedly resented how exposed he felt, convinced his father had turned his struggle into spectacle. What was meant as an act of love only deepened their distance. That film ended with a flicker of hope, a father's belief that love could save a lost soul. But real life doesn't always follow a script, and by late 2025, the lines between art and tragedy had blurred beyond recognition. On the evening of December 13th, 2025, the night before everything fell apart, Hollywood's biggest names gathered for one of the industry's most beloved traditions, Conan O'Brien's annual Christmas party. The air buzzed with music, laughter, and the soft glow of holiday lights reflecting off champagne glasses. For most, it was a night to celebrate another year of success. For the Reiner family, it would be the final act before tragedy. Rob arrived with Michele, warm as always, exchanging hugs and jokes with old friends. But those who noticed Nick that night described something different.
Billy was my best friend, and, we just hung out and had some fun.
A shadow that didn't belong in the festive room. Dressed casually in a hoodie and jeans, he stood apart from the clusters of stars, avoiding small talk, staring into the fire pit as if lost somewhere else entirely. Guests later said his eyes carried a faraway look, restless, vacant, almost haunted. The argument began quietly, then escalated into something impossible to ignore. Witnesses say Rob approached his son near the patio, urging him to show some respect. Words turned sharp, voices rose, the laughter around them froze. One source described Rob's face, a mix of anger and heartbreak, while Seal gently tried to calm them both. Moments later, Nick stormed out, leaving an uneasy silence behind him. Billy Crystal, who had been standing near the buffet table, reportedly watched the scene unfold from a distance. Later, he'd tell a friend, something about that night felt wrong, like a storm you could sense before it hit.
Rob Reiner and Nick got into a, quote, very loud argument. His behavior at Conan's house alarmed the guests because it was so bizarre. One of the guests recalled Rob Reiner telling his son his behavior was inappropriate. He looked anxious. He looked uncomfortable in a way that deeply unsettled.
No one could have imagined that within 24 hours, that tension would erupt into horror. The lights, the laughter, the Christmas music, all of it would soon be replaced by flashing sirens and the sound of hearts breaking in Brentwood. Sunday afternoon, December 14th, 2025. The quiet streets of Brentwood shimmered under the soft California sun, the kind of peaceful day that hides unspeakable things behind closed doors. Inside the Reiner home, silence had settled where laughter once lived. When their daughter, Romy Reiner, arrived around 3:30 p.m., she expected to find her parents relaxing after the long party weekend. Instead, she walked into a nightmare she'll never escape.
I heard that the son, Nick, went into his parents' house, stabbed both mom and dad, and that the daughter, I guess, lives on the property or at the house or in the back house, and that she found them, and that the mom was still alive, and apparently she called the ambulance and went in the ambulance with her mother. Michele died in the ambulance, but had enough time to tell her daughter that it was Nick, their son, who stabbed them, and that's why they figured it out so quickly and he's in custody.
The details are almost too haunting to picture. The master bedroom door was slightly open. Inside, her parents lay lifeless, victims of what the coroner would later describe as multiple sharp force injuries. The scene was devastating, beyond anything the human heart is prepared to witness. Romy's scream echoed through the house as she stumbled back, calling 911 with trembling hands. Within minutes, sirens pierced the calm, shattering the stillness of Chadbourne Avenue. Billy Crystal was among the first close friends Romy reached out to. He and his wife Janice rushed to the scene before the street was sealed off by LAPD. When he arrived, officers were already stringing yellow tape across the driveway. Neighbors peeked from behind their curtains, confused and horrified.
We watched last night, When Harry Met Sally, and I hadn't seen it in like 25 years or more. I just forgot, you forget how wonderful Billy is and how wonderful he is with Meg. When I think about 45 years, this guy who went from Catch a Rising Star, driving in from Long Island with Alan Zweibel, wondering if he's ever going to be anything, getting fired off the first time he was on Saturday Night Live. alive. They cut him out. He was done. He was done. And yet, look where he is. His feet are going in the cement. Now, Bill, I gotta tell you, when you put your feet in the cement, take them out, because otherwise you're gonna be in there forever, and it could be the end of your career.
Witnesses say Billy's expression said everything: disbelief, shock, and unbearable grief as he realized this wasn't another Hollywood rumor. TMZ would later report that Billy saw the bodies, though his representatives denied it. Still, the truth is simple. He didn't need to. The weight in the air, the cries from inside, the look on Romy's face, it told him everything. That December afternoon, a piece of Hollywood history and a piece of Billy Crystal's heart died inside that house, and the question that would haunt him forever began to form. Could anyone have stopped it? By the evening of December 14th, the investigation had already shifted from shock to pursuit. Detectives traced Nick Reiner's phone to the Exposition Park area near USC, just a few miles from the family's Brentwood home. At 9:15 p.m., LAPD officers quietly moved in. There was no chase, no resistance, only a dazed 32-year-old standing beneath a flickering streetlight, expression blank, hands trembling as they led him away. The son of one of Hollywood's most beloved figures was now the prime suspect in his parents' murder. The following days unfolded like scenes from a psychological thriller. News helicopters hovered over the Reiner property, while reporters camped outside the courthouse. Prosecutors wasted no time. On December 16th, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office charged Nick with 2 counts of first-degree murder, citing the special circumstance of multiple killings and the use of a deadly weapon. It meant one grim thing: if convicted, he could face life without parole, or worse, the death penalty.
I always say this about Bill. I'm gonna say one thing. He's the most regular, real comedian I've ever met. I'm serious. Because, no, a man who can make people laugh, who is clearly the best host of the Oscars ever, without question.
Billy Crystal stayed silent. No statements, no interviews, no public appearances. When friends later gathered to craft a single joint tribute, Billy's words were deliberate, almost guarded, honoring Rob and Michele's legacy without mentioning the horror that ended it. Those who know him say he carried himself differently afterward. Shoulders lower, voice softer, eyes always somewhere else. Hollywood had lost a legend, but Billy had lost something even deeper: his faith that friendship, love, or art could ever make sense of a tragedy like this. 2 days after the murders, a statement appeared through the Associated Press, a joint tribute signed by 8 of Rob Reiner's closest friends, including Billy Crystal, Larry David, Martin Short, and Albert Brooks. On the surface, it was a eulogy, graceful, eloquent, filled with admiration. But for those who read closely, Billy's fingerprints were all over it, and so were the emotions he couldn't say aloud. The words spoke of strength, creativity, and devotion. Yet beneath the calm phrasing was a quiet ache, a coded grief that only those who truly knew Rob could recognize. When Billy wrote, they were a special force together, dynamic, unselfish, and inspiring. It wasn't just about legacy, it was about loss. The sentence carried the weight of someone who had seen that force extinguished too soon in a way no one could process.
Along with Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally, not only was he great as Harry Burns, but Bill wrote what I believe is maybe the funniest line in all of movie history: "I'll have what she's having." Said by my mother.
Friends say Billy agonized over the wording, rewriting lines late into the night before sending the final version to the group. Every sentence felt like a balancing act, mourning publicly while holding back unbearable details. Some noted what was missing from the statement: no mention of the circumstances, no word of Nick, no reference to justice or anger, just love, restrained, aching, almost whispering between the lines. Billy's silence in interviews since then hasn't been accidental. For a man who built his life on words, his quiet has become its own confession. Sometimes grief speaks loudest when it refuses to explain. In the days that followed, Hollywood came together in a rare moment of collective mourning. Across studios, red carpets, and late-night sets, a single name echoed with reverence: Rob Reiner. He wasn't just a filmmaker. He was a storyteller who shaped generations. From The Princess Bride to A Few Good Men, his films taught audiences to laugh, love, and question everything. Now the man behind those timeless stories was gone, leaving a silence that even his words couldn't fill. Political figures and cultural icons added their voices. Former President Barack Obama called Rob and Michele a force for compassion and creativity. California's Governor Gavin Newsom described them as pillars of progress and art. Kathy Bates, Sally Struthers, and Robin Wright each released statements soaked in disbelief. The Norman Lear estate wrote, "The world is unmistakably darker tonight."
Then in The Princess Bride, of course, you know, he was Miracle Max. And yes, and he told us that the greatest thing in the world was true love, except for a nice MLT, a mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. When the mutton is nice and lean, it's so perky. So that was The Princess Bride. And then,
for a moment, it felt like Hollywood had stopped pretending. Everyone was simply human, grieving the loss of 2 souls who represented its better side. Their children, Jake and Romy, released a message that broke hearts everywhere. They called their parents not just family, but best friends. Absent from that letter was any mention of Nick, a silence louder than words. Rob and Michele's Michelle's legacy wasn't just their films or activism. It was their love, imperfect, enduring, and fiercely loyal to the end. Their story is now both inspiration and cautionary tale, reminding us that even the brightest lights can flicker in the darkest hour. Since that December night, Billy Crystal has spoken only through actions. His absence from interviews, his quiet withdrawal from public events, his refusal to let the tragedy become spectacle. For a man who spent his life making others laugh, his silence feels heavier than any performance he's ever given. Those close to him say he carries a quiet burden, one that can't be joked away or softened by time. Billy and Rob were more than colleagues. They were brothers in everything but blood. From their earliest days on This Is Spinal Tap and When Harry Met Sally, to decades of shared dinners, phone calls, and inside jokes, theirs was a friendship that outlasted Hollywood's fickle loyalties. Losing Rob was one thing, losing him this way was something Billy still can't articulate.
And the first time I met Billy, 45 years ago, he was cast to play my best friend in an episode of All in the Family. And I figured Norman Lear knows what he's doing. He was smart. He said, so he cast me as my best friend. I said, so I guess that's what we should be. And so from that day on, we've been best friends, and it's worked out pretty good. Pretty damn good.
Friends whisper that Billy blames himself for not noticing the warning signs, for not reaching out one more time, for not stopping what none of them saw coming. Those who visited him say he keeps a photo of Rob and Michele on his writing desk, facing the window, always in the light. He's turned down every request to tell his side, because there is no side, only pain and memory. To Billy, speaking would feel like betrayal. The laughter they once shared now echoes in the quiet of his home, replaced by a single haunting truth. Sometimes the people who make the world smile are the ones carrying the deepest grief. As the lights dim on this heartbreaking story, one truth remains impossible to ignore. Even in a world filled with fame, fortune, and adoration, no one is immune to pain. Rob and Michele Reiner weren't just icons of the screen. They were parents fighting a battle too many families know too well: the quiet war between love and loss. Their lives were symbols of laughter and humanity, but their final chapter became a reminder of how fragile both can be. For Billy Crystal, the tragedy wasn't just personal. It was a mirror reflecting everything he and Rob once believed about storytelling, friendship, and the power of compassion. The silence he keeps today is not avoidance, it's respect, a vow to honor two lives that shaped his own, and a love story that ended far too soon. If this story shook you, you'll want to see what Rob Reiner said just 2 weeks before that terrible night, when he revealed the heartbreaking truth about his son's struggle and the secret pain behind his calm smile. That moment may hold the emotional key to understanding everything that followed. You can find that story right here on Celeb Spotlight, where we uncover the humanity behind the headlines. Because behind every red carpet smile, there's a story the cameras never caught, and we're here to tell it. This video reflects a narrative shaped by public conversation,